The greatest power of art is to communicate something of the divine, of the transcendent, something of real power and substance and meaning that we can experience. Hey guys, I am so excited to present to you my latest completed drawing called The Angel of Creation. This composition is about 14 by 15 inches, pencil and pen and ink on paper. So, as some of you may know, a lot of my artwork is digital paintings. So I really appreciate the process of going back and forth between digital work and traditional work. What that does is it makes me very acutely aware of the tools and the positives and negatives, so to speak, of each material. And I really feel that when I'm working on the artwork. So this one, being on paper, investing so many hours, so much time and energy and creativity and reflection on a single piece of paper, it really does express itself through the original work of art. I hope also it does come through on the computer screen and in this video as well. I think it does. But the original materials are so much of the creative process. Even though it's working on a 2D surface, more or less, just like a computer screen. The texture of the paper, how the pencil reacts to the paper, how the pen and ink react to the pencil and the paper, all of that accumulates to infuse the work with its particular presence. So I see this as a visionary work of art. What does that mean? What is visionary art? Well, that's a big question. For me, it kind of illuminates the greatest power of what art really is and can be. And I stand by that because I think the greatest power of art is to communicate something of the divine, of the transcendent, something of real power and substance and meaning that we can experience, that maybe we have experienced and we're bringing into the artwork, or that we're opening the experience through making the artwork itself. So I think that's what many of us really appreciate, is something that infuses our life with value, that connects us to some greater purpose or orientation. And there's so many ways to express that. So that's a tall order for what we want a work of art to do, but this is our opportunity. So I really take that seriously when I make art, and that's what I think is the most valuable use of creative time, is to put that sense of a higher vision, a greater meaning, the greatest experiences that I've had and that I want to connect to more and more into the artwork itself. So when I do look at this original drawing, I feel that, and I would hope that you can start to feel some of that too as you experience this drawing. So let's take a closer look at some of the details of what's going on here. The central figure, the Angel of Creation, is inspired by a painting called The Angel of Revelation by William Blake. Some of you, I'm sure, are familiar. William Blake was an English artist in the 18th to 19th centuries, and he worked mainly in watercolors. His artwork is profoundly visionary and spiritual and religious. A lot of it is Christian iconography, relying on the Bible, the Old and New Testaments, but it clearly has a unique flavor that Blake really energizes his images with. We can clearly see his style and his authentic enthusiasm and connection to the divinities that he paints, the angels as well as the demons and God, and the whole spectrum of places and figures from religious texts. So for me, he's somewhat of a heroic figure, Blake, and a lot of the figures he painted have this heroic quality too. So that was the initial inspiration for this figure. From there, the wings really unfolded the full dimensions of my own unique vision that we can see in this drawing. It really speaks, I think, to our inclinations and our interest and inspiration from other worlds and other dimensions. And that's what starts to unfold in these wings. So if we look at the top left, on the left wing, we can see these lion-like figures. And these lions are inspired by Paleolithic cave paintings in a cave called Chauvet Cave that's in the south of France. Some of you may be familiar. It's some of the oldest known paintings in the world, about 35,000 years old in the cave. And they were preserved because they were sealed off in this cave. And they depict some of the large animals, the large fauna that were around at the time, such as European lions. So this cave was discovered in 1994, which is relatively recent. And I think there's a tremendous amount of, let's say, spiritual resources to be discovered in this work that I haven't seen much of in art. So I'm really excited and inspired by the paintings at Chauvet Cave. And I also was fortunate enough recently to visit the reproduction cave that has these paintings. So going down from there, we have this other figure, which is also inspired by another painting by William Blake. On its chest, we could see this face, this kind of leafy face, which is the Green Man. And the Green Man was a symbol commonly found in a lot of European medieval churches, especially in the Gothic era. And the Green Man was kind of hearkening back to pagan religious connection to nature. So he kind of embodies the spirit of nature into plants and trees and leaves, and made its way into Christian iconography in the Gothic era. From there, going down, we see the kind of roots spiraling and twisting around each other. That reminds me of a lot of illuminated manuscript decoration, which has been a huge inspiration for me. I think a recurring motif in some of my art is our connection to books and pages. And if we look further down, we could see some books with some pages fluttering around. That's also resonant, I think, with the fact that this is a drawing on paper. And so much of what this is honoring the substance of what that is. Because so much of, at least my life, and I'm sure for many of us out there, much of our life is digitally oriented. And the physical part of our life, a lot of the things we own are made in other places, other countries, by people we have no idea who they are. So, at least for me, when I have this experience of pouring dozens, if not hundreds of hours into a piece of paper, it really starts to take on a powerful presence that I can feel, and I would hope a lot of viewers can feel as well. So if we look at the other side, at the wing on the right, a few details I'd like to point out. We can see this saber-toothed tiger at the top right. That's resonant with the lions on the left from Chauvet Cave. We can also see some other creatures in there. We can see the mushroom sprouting out. And at the bottom here, we have a female figure in the position of what I see as a scribe. She's holding this quill with an eye-like design on it. That also goes back to the original William Blake painting, which was St. John, who wrote the Book of Revelation, which inspired his painting. So I took that figure in Blake's version and enlarged it and made it more feminine and put it on the side there, because that just seemed to unlock a greater depth of the vision. At the bottom here, we see a crab, which represents the unconscious because they come from the depths of the ocean. And it actually is inspired by a sketch by Leonardo da Vinci. So it's kind of a nod to his creative powers. In the center here at the bottom, we have this jewel-like structure. And the eagle shape that we can see here is inspired by a medieval recurring jewelry motif, which was found in the culture called the Visigoths. And the Visigoths were in the early medieval era. They had a kingdom in Spain, what is now Spain, and were eventually destroyed by the Islamic incursion into the Iberian Peninsula. So that has really inspired me. I've seen these eagles in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, and they're really beautiful, and it just felt right to put it in the drawing. At the top, in the center, this is where it really coalesces into the central meaning, I think, of the drawing. And this is what I hope starts to open us, what many of us are inclined towards, which is a higher spiritual vision or just a higher purpose and meaning, which this angel of creation is reaching towards. And this eye-like structure at the top, that's clearly representative of perception and consciousness and awakening, all these themes which I think are so central to our values for many of us. And I would hope it's kind of pointing to the future that we can build, which is about greater purpose and greater consciousness and unity and diversity and all of these themes that are recurring in my artwork. One last detail I want to point out is his lower hand. This to me is kind of a poetic symbolism where we have this kind of visual expectation that his hand is holding the sword. But when we look closely, we see that the sword is actually behind his hand. It's kind of hovering behind him in this mystical kind of presence. And in his hand, we see a small book, which is also harkens back to the original Blake painting that it's inspired by. Overall, what does this drawing mean? There's so much going on, but I will say that I think for many artists and anyone who really appreciates art, we spend a lot of time engaged in a particular work. All these different symbols and details start to embed themselves in our consciousness and in our mind when we're making or looking at the work. So when I was there making this drawing, it didn't seem particularly complicated. It was all just obvious and memorized and known in my mind while I made it. Altogether, the real meaning of the drawing overall, well, I want to leave that door open to all of us to have our own relationship to that, because I think that's the real key and the power of a work of art. For me personally, it's about connecting to a higher purpose while at the same time staying rooted in a meaningful life in this world. That's been a big part of my life, is about how do I honor the higher and the spiritual experiences that I've seen and realized and experienced and connected to, while at the same time succeeding in this world in terms of career and relationships and all the things that concern us on a day-to-day. So I think that bridge between these two levels of our humanness is one of the major themes that my art speaks to. Thank you so much, guys, who have watched this video, and I hope that it's been inspiring to you. This drawing is for sale. It's out there. I really look forward to making more videos like this and sharing more of my art.